The rain hammered down on Sector 9 like the universe itself had sprung a leak. Typical. Marcus Webb pulled his jacket tighter and muttered a curse that would have made his grandmother faint. Of all the backwater trading posts in all the spiral arms of the galaxy, he had to get stuck on this one, waiting for a cargo shipment that was 3 days late. Fantastic, he said to nobody in particular. Just fantastic. He was about to head back to his ship when he saw her. She was sprawled in the alley between two rusted containers, rain mixing with something darker that pooled beneath her. Blood. A lot of it. Marcus froze, his hand instinctively moving toward the medkit he always kept strapped to his belt. Old habits from his days as a field medic refused to die even after 5 years of hauling freight across the void. The woman, or what he assumed was a woman, had scales. Actual scales. They shimmered even in the dim light, a deep crimson that seemed to pulse with an inner fire. Her face was humanoid enough, sharp cheekbones, full lips, but her eyes were something else entirely. Vertical pupils, golden and fierce, even half-closed in pain. "Oh, come on," Marcus groaned. "This is exactly the kind of trouble I don't need." He should walk away. Smart people walked away. Smart people didn't get involved with wounded aliens who looked like they could rip your head off even while bleeding out. But Marcus Webb had never been accused of being particularly smart. He knelt beside her, rain soaking through his pants. Hey, can you hear me?" Those golden eyes cracked open, fixing on him with an intensity that made his stomach drop. She tried to speak, but only managed a wet cough. "More blood. Definitely not good." "Right. Okay. Let's get you patched up before you turn this alley into a crime scene." Marcus pulled out his medkit and assessed the damage. 3 deep gashes across her torso, burns on her arms that looked like energy weapon discharge, and what might have been a broken rib or 6. "Who the hell did you pick a fight with?" "A battlecruiser." The woman's lips twitched. Was that a smile? Hard to tell with someone from a species he'd never encountered before. Marcus worked quickly, applying coagulant foam to the worst of the wounds. The foam hissed as it made contact with her blood, which was apparently acidic enough to eat through the standard issue stuff. He switched to the heavy-duty medical sealant, the kind meant for industrial accidents. "You know," he said, mostly to keep himself calm, "most people say thank you when someone saves their life. Just putting that out there." She grabbed his wrist, fast. Too fast for someone who should have been halfway to dead. Her grip was like a vice and Marcus felt every bone in his arm protest. "Not safe," she rasped, her voice like gravel wrapped in silk. "They will come." "Who will come?" "The people who did this to you." Marcus tried to keep his voice steady, failed miserably. "Look, I'm just a cargo hauler. I don't do action, suspense, or anything involving people trying to kill me. That's not in my job description." "Human." The word came out with something that might have been wonder, or maybe disbelief. Hard to tell. "Foolish. Brave." "Yeah, I get that a lot. Mostly the foolish part." He finished sealing the last wound and sat back on his heels. "There, you're not going to die in the next 10 minutes, which I'm counting as a personal victory. Now I'm going to very slowly stand up and back away and you're going to pretend this never happened. Sound good?" She didn't let go of his wrist. "Or not," Marcus sighed. "Of course not." A sound echoed from the far end of the alley. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Marcus felt his pulse spike. The woman's eyes went wide and for the first time he saw something that looked like actual fear cross her face. "Hide," she whispered. Now. Marcus didn't need to be told twice. He scrambled behind a stack of cargo containers, pulling the woman with him. She bit back a cry of pain but moved with him. Faster than anyone with her injuries had any right to move. 3 figures emerged from the rain. They were massive, easily 8 feet tall, covered in what looked like natural armor plating. Their faces were all angles and teeth, and they carried weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. "The tracking signature ends here," one of them growled in a language Marcus's translator chip struggled to process. "Find her. The warlord wants her dead before she reaches the council." "Warlord? Council?" Marcus felt his day going from bad to catastrophically worse. He glanced at the woman beside him. She was tense, every muscle coiled like a spring, despite the fact that she could barely stand. "Who are you?" he whispered. She turned those golden eyes on him, and for a moment Marcus saw something ancient and terrible lurking behind them. Something that made his instinct scream. "Kira," she said simply. "My name is Kira." "Okay, Kira. Any chance you want to tell me why 3 walking tanks are hunting you?" "Long story. I've got time. Lots of time. Specifically the amount of time it takes for them to find us and kill us both." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "I may have destroyed their fleet." Marcus stared at her. "You what?" It was only 12 ships. Barely a challenge. Only 12. Right. Sure. Completely reasonable. He ran a hand through his wet hair. And let me guess. Now they want revenge? Something like that. The hunters were getting closer, their sensors sweeping the area. Marcus could hear the whine of their equipment, the squelch of their boots in the rain-soaked ground. His ship was 3 blocks away. Might as well have been on another planet. Can you fight? He asked. Kira tried to stand, made it halfway up and collapsed against him. Not yet. Perfect. Just perfect. Marcus looked around desperately. The alley was a dead end. No exits except the way they came in, and that was currently blocked by 3 very large, very angry aliens. Think, Webb. Think. His eyes landed on a maintenance hatch in the ground half covered by debris, storm drains, the station's underbelly. It was a maze down there full of toxic runoff and things that probably wanted to eat him, but it beat dying in an alley. Can you crawl? If I must. You must. Trust me on this one. Marcus cleared the debris as quietly as possible, his hands shaking. The hatch groaned as he lifted it, and he froze, certain the hunters had heard. But they were arguing among themselves now, their voices raised in frustration. Down, he hissed. Now. Kira didn't argue. She slipped through the opening with surprising grace, and Marcus followed, pulling the hatch closed behind them just as one of the hunters rounded the corner. The darkness swallowed them whole. Marcus activated the small light on his wrist unit, illuminating a narrow tunnel that stretched in both directions. Water rushed past their feet, carrying who knew what with it. The smell was indescribable. This is officially the worst day of my life, Marcus announced. And I once got stranded on a mining colony during a methane storm, so that's saying something. Kira was leaning against the tunnel wall, breathing hard. Even in the dim light, Marcus could see she was fading fast. The adrenaline was wearing off, and the injuries were catching up with her. We need to move, she said. You need a hospital. No hospitals. They will find me. Then what do you suggest? Because I'm fresh out of ideas and my expertise tops out at basic first aid and flying a cargo hauler. Kira fixed him with those golden eyes again. Your ship. Take me to your ship. My ship is 3 blocks away through a station crawling with bounty hunters. Can you fly it? Of course I can fly it. Flying it isn't the problem. Getting to it without dying is the problem. Then we die trying. She pushed off the wall, swayed, and Marcus caught her before she could fall. Or we succeed. Either way, better than waiting here. Marcus couldn't argue with that logic, as insane as it was. He adjusted his grip, taking more of her weight. You're surprisingly heavy for someone who's mostly dead. Dense bone structure. Comes with the species, right? Because today wasn't weird enough already. They moved through the tunnels, following the flow of water toward the docking bays. Marcus's mind raced. Even if they made it to his ship, the Drift Runner, even if they got past station security, where were they supposed to go? He was a nobody. A freelance hauler with debts up to his eyeballs and exactly 0 connections to anyone important. And Kira, whoever she really was, had just admitted to destroying a fleet. That wasn't the kind of thing small-time criminals did. That was military-level destruction. War-level. So, he said, because the silence was driving him crazy. When you say you destroyed their fleet, are we talking metaphorically or literally? I destroyed 12 warships. Took about 4 hours. 4 hours. Marcus laughed, a slightly hysterical edge to it. 4 hours to destroy 12 warships. Solo, I'm guessing? I had help. My ship's AI is quite capable. Your ship's AI? Of course. Why wouldn't it be? He shook his head. And now you're stuck with me bleeding out in a sewer. How's that working out for you? You saved my life, Kira said quietly. That counts for something, yeah. Well, jury's still out on whether that was smart or suicidal. They reached a junction, and Marcus paused, trying to orient himself. The station maps were notoriously unreliable, especially in the maintenance tunnels. Left should take them toward the docking bays, should being the operative word. A sound echoed behind them. Voices. The hunters had found the hatch. Left it is, Marcus decided, pulling Kira along. They ran. Or Marcus ran, and Kira did her best to keep up, her hand pressed against the sealed wounds on her side. The tunnel narrowed, forcing them to move single file. Marcus's lungs burned, his legs screamed, and his brain kept helpfully reminding him that he was absolutely going to die. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber, machinery humming on all sides. Pipes crisscrossed overhead, dripping condensation. Marcus recognized the power distribution hub for the docking bays. They were close, almost there. He panted. Just a little further. That's when the wall exploded. Marcus hit the ground hard, his ears ringing. Debris rained down around them. Through the dust and smoke, he saw one of the hunters step through the hole, weapon raised. "Found you," it growled. Kira moved before Marcus could process what was happening. Despite her injuries, despite the fact that she could barely stand, she launched herself at the hunter with a roar that made Marcus's bones vibrate. Her hand, tipped with claws he hadn't noticed before, raked across the hunter's armor, leaving deep gouges. The hunter stumbled back, shocked. Kira pressed her advantage, moving with a speed and ferocity that seemed impossible. She was a blur of crimson scales and golden eyes, every movement precise and deadly, but she was hurt, badly. And there were 3 of them. The other 2 hunters burst through the hole. Weapons firing. Energy bolts lit up the chamber. Marcus dove behind a support pillar, his heart trying to escape through his ribcage. This was it. This was how he died. In a sewer, on a backwater station, helping someone he didn't know fight enemies he didn't understand. His grandmother would be so disappointed. Then Kira screamed, sound of pure rage and pain, and something changed. The air itself seemed to ripple. Marcus felt heat wash over him, intense and primal. He peeked around the pillar and saw Kira standing in the center of the chamber, her scales glowing like molten metal. Flames erupted from her hands. Not metaphorical flames. Actual fire. Dragon fire. "Oh," Marcus said faintly. "Oh, that's not good." The hunters scattered, but the fire followed them, alive and hungry. It consumed their armor, their weapons, their screams. In seconds it was over. The hunters were gone, reduced to nothing but ash and memory. Kira swayed, the fire dying as quickly as it had appeared. She turned to look at Marcus, her eyes dim now, the golden light fading. "Still think saving me was foolish?" she asked. Then she collapsed. Marcus caught her, barely. His arms felt like jelly. His brain felt like scrambled eggs. Everything felt wrong and impossible and utterly insane, but he was alive. They were both alive. And his ship was just 2 levels up. "Come on," he muttered, hoisting Kira up again. "Let's get off this station before something else tries to kill us." He had a feeling his quiet life as a cargo hauler was officially over. Marcus Webb had seen some strange things in his 5 years hauling cargo across the galaxy. He once watched a Velthian trader eat an entire plasma coil because he lost a bet. He survived a meteor shower while his navigation system was down. He even accidentally smuggled a colony of singing space fungi that took 3 weeks to remove from his air vents. But none of that, absolutely none of it, prepared him for the sight of a dragon woman passed out in his cargo hold, still smoldering slightly. "This is fine," Marcus said to himself, checking the drift runner systems for the 3rd time. "Everything is fine. Totally normal. Just your average Tuesday." The ship's computer beeped at him disapprovingly. "Don't start with me, Betty. I don't need judgment right now. I need solutions." He had named his ship's AI Betty after his grandmother, mostly because both of them had a talent for making him feel guilty about his life choices. Right now, Betty was displaying his fuel reserves, which were dangerously low, and the station's security alerts, which were getting dangerously high. The docking clamps released with a hiss. Marcus guided the drift runner out of the bay, trying to look casual, like he wasn't fleeing a crime scene with a wanted alien warrior in his cargo hold. Just another routine departure. Nothing to see here. "Attention, freighter drift runner," a voice crackled over the comm. "You are ordered to power down and submit to inspection." "Yeah, about that," Marcus said, punching the throttle. "I'm going to have to decline." The station's defense turrets swiveled toward him. Of course they did. Because today wasn't complicated enough already. "Drift runner, this is your final warning. Power down immediately or we will open fire." Marcus yanked the controls hard to starboard, the ship groaning in protest. Energy bolts streaked past his viewport, close enough that he could see the heat shimmer. Betty screamed alerts at him, red lights flashing across every console. I know, Marcus shouted, weaving between cargo haulers and transport ships. "We're working on it." More turrets opened fire. The drift runner shuddered as a bolt clipped her rear shields. Marcus watched the shield integrity drop from 60% to 40 in one hit. 3 more shots like that, and they would be breathing vacuum. He dove under a massive bulk freighter, using it as cover. The station's weapons hesitated, unwilling to risk hitting civilian traffic. It bought Marcus maybe 10 seconds. 10 seconds to plot a jump to hyperspace. 10 seconds to save both their lives. His fingers flew across the navigation console. The hyperdrive was old, temperamental, and required at least 2 minutes of calculations before it could safely engage. Marcus gave it 30 seconds and prayed. Come on. The hyperdrive whined. Building charge. The station fell away behind them, its weapons still firing. 1 bolt, then another, slammed into the rear shields. 20% integrity. 10%. Betty, please tell me we're ready. The computer beeped affirmatively, but the tone suggested she thought this was a terrible idea. Yeah, well, terrible ideas are kind of my specialty. Marcus slammed his hand down on the hyperdrive activation. The universe stretched, twisted, and the drift runner punched through into hyperspace with all the grace of a drunk elephant. The sudden acceleration threw Marcus back in his seat. His stomach tried to exit through his spine. The ship rattled like it was coming apart at the rivets, which it very well might have been. Then, slowly, everything stabilized. They were alive. They were away. They were completely and totally screwed. Marcus let out a breath he didn't know he had been holding. His hands were shaking. Actually, all of him was shaking. Probably the adrenaline or the terror. Hard to tell the difference at this point. Okay, he said to the empty cockpit. Now what? A groan from the cargo hold answered him. Right. The dragon woman. Kira, who could apparently breathe fire and destroy fleets and was currently bleeding all over his cargo bay floor. Marcus unstrapped himself and headed down the narrow corridor. The drift runner was not a big ship. Cockpit, cargo hold, tiny living quarters that consisted of a bunk, a toilet, and a food processor that made everything taste like recycled plastic. It was home, and now it smelled like burnt metal and dragon blood. Kira was awake, sitting up against a cargo container. She looked terrible. Her scales had lost their shimmer, dulled to a muddy brown. The wounds Marcus had sealed were holding, but barely. She needed proper medical attention, the kind with actual doctors and equipment, not a washed-up cargo hauler with a field med kit. Where are we? She asked, her voice rough. Hyperspace. Somewhere between that station and anywhere else. Marcus knelt beside her, checking the seals. How are you feeling? Like I fought 3 hunters and lost. You won, actually. Pretty decisively. The whole fire thing was very impressive. Terrifying, but impressive. Kira managed a weak smile. You have never seen a Draknari in battle before? A what now? Draknari. My species. We are born of fire and war. She coughed, wincing. Though right now I feel more like ash than flame. Yeah, that happens when you get stabbed multiple times. Marcus pulled out a nutrient pack from his emergency supplies. Here, drink this. It tastes like battery acid, but it will help with the blood loss. Kira took the pack, sniffed it suspiciously, then downed it in one go. She made a face that suggested battery acid might have been an understatement. Told you, Marcus said. Your medical supplies are worse than your tunnel systems. Hey, those medical supplies saved your life. Show some respect. They sat in silence for a moment, the hum of the hyperdrive filling the space between them. Marcus should have been planning his next move, figuring out where to go, how to get rid of his extremely dangerous passenger. Instead, he found himself asking the question that had been nagging at him since the alley. Who are you? Really? Kira looked at him, those golden eyes weighing and measuring. You do not want to know. I think I gave up the right to not know when I dragged you through a sewer and got shot at by a space station. So, humor me. Who is Kira and why do people want her dead? She was quiet for so long that Marcus thought she might not answer. Then she sighed, a sound that carried centuries of weight. I am Kira Valross, First Blade of the Draknari Empire, Commander of the Flame Legion, Breaker of the Krenth Blockade. She paused. And the most wanted person in 17 star systems. Marcus blinked. Come again? The fleet I destroyed belonged to the Vorthal warlords. They have been raiding colonies on the Outer Rim for 2 years. The Galactic Council refused to act, claiming it was an internal matter. So I acted instead. You started a war. I ended raids. There is a difference. Not to the people shooting at us. There isn't. Marcus ran his hands through his hair. So what was the plan? Destroy their fleet and then what? Hide in an alley and hope they forgot about you? I was supposed to meet a contact. Someone who could get me to the council chambers. Force them to acknowledge what the Vorthal are doing. Kira's expression darkened. But I was betrayed. My ship was sabotaged. I barely made it to the station before they found me. And then I found you. And then you found me. She looked at him curiously. Why did you help me? You knew I was dangerous. You knew it would bring trouble. Marcus shrugged. Old habits. I used to be a combat medic back before I decided running cargo was safer. Turns out not saving people is harder than it looks. A medic. Kira's expression softened. That explains the competence. Was that a compliment? Did you just compliment me? Do not let it go to your head, human. Too late. Way too late. Marcus stood, offering her his hand. Can you walk? We should get you to the bunk. It is not much, but it beats sitting on the floor. Kira took his hand and let him pull her up. She was steadier now, the nutrient pack apparently doing its job. They made their way to the tiny living quarters and Marcus helped her onto the bunk. Rest, he said. I will figure out where we are going. Marcus. She caught his arm. Thank you. For everything. He felt his face heat up. Yeah, well, try not to set my ship on fire in your sleep. Back in the cockpit, Marcus stared at the navigation display. They had enough fuel for maybe 2 more hyperspace jumps. 3 if he pushed it and didn't mind the possibility of getting stranded in deep space. Credits were low. Food was low, and he was harboring a fugitive who had just admitted to starting an interstellar incident. Betty, give me options. The computer displayed a list of nearby systems. Most of them were Vorthak-controlled. A few were neutral, but neutral usually meant they would sell you out to whoever paid the most. There was one possibility, though. A small station on the edge of Council space called Haven Port. It was a sanctuary station, protected by ancient treaties that even the Vorthau respected. Mostly. Haven Port it is, Marcus decided. Plot a course. Betty beeped a question. Yes. I know it is 3 jumps away. Yes, I know we barely have the fuel. Just do it. The computer complied, though her tone suggested deep disapproval. Marcus ignored it. He had bigger problems than a judgmental AI, like the fact that his scanner was picking up pursuit ships. Oh, come on, Marcus shouted at the universe in general. How did they find us this fast? 3 ships had dropped out of hyperspace behind them, their weapon systems already charging. Vorthal hunters by the look of them. Fast, heavily armed, and very, very angry. Marcus slammed his hand on the intercom. Kira, we have company. No response. Kira, still nothing. She was probably passed out. Great. Just fantastic. The first volley of weapons fire streaked past the drift runner. Marcus threw the ship into a series of evasive maneuvers that would have made his flight instructor weep. The cargo containers in the hold crashed around, and Marcus sent a silent apology to whoever owned the medical supplies he was supposed to be delivering. Another volley. This one hit, slamming into the port shields. The ship bucked like a wounded animal. Betty, I could really use some good news right now. The computer displayed their shield status. 30% and dropping. The next hit would punch through, and then they would be in serious trouble. More serious than they already were. Which seemed impossible. Marcus pulled the ship into a tight spiral, narrowly avoiding a missile. The hunters were good. Too good. They were hurting him, cutting off escape vectors, boxing him in for the kill. He needed a miracle. He got Kira instead. She stumbled into the cockpit, one hand pressed against her wounds, the other gripping the doorframe for support. Her eyes were blazing again, literally golden fire dancing in her pupils. Give me weapons control, she said. The drift runner doesn't have weapons, it is a cargo hauler. Then give me engine control. That is a terrible idea. Do you have a better one? Marcus looked at the pursuing ships, at the shield integrity dropping to 20%, at the vastness of space that was about to become his tomb. No. I really don't. He transferred engine control to the co-pilot station. Kira dropped into the seat, her hands flying across the console with practiced ease. Whatever else she was, she clearly knew her way around a ship. On my mark, kill the hyperdrive, she said. Kill the hyperdrive? We are in hyperspace. That will rip us apart. Trust me. I barely know you. Trust me anyway. The hunters were closing in. 10 seconds to weapons range, 5 seconds. Now, Kira shouted. Marcus killed the hyperdrive. The universe snapped back into focus. The drift runner dropped out of hyperspace, decelerating so fast that Marcus's stomach tried to escape through his chest. The hunters, expecting them to continue, shot past them in hyperspace, unable to stop. For exactly 3 seconds they were alone in normal space. Kira didn't waste them. She redirected all power from life support, from shields, from everything non-essential, and dumped it into the engines. The drift runner screamed in protest, every rivet straining, every system redlining. Jump, Kira ordered. Different vector. Now. Marcus's hands moved on instinct, plotting a new course perpendicular to their original trajectory. The hyperdrive, still hot from the emergency drop, whined as it tried to build charge again. Too slow. Too slow. The hunters realized their mistake and were coming about. Come on, Betty, Marcus whispered. Just a little faster. The hyperdrive hit minimum charge. Not enough for a safe jump, but enough for a jump, and that was all they had. Marcus activated it. The drift runner lurched back into hyperspace, the sudden transition making everything blur. Alarms shrieked. Something in the engine room made a sound like a dying cat. But they were moving, shooting away from the hunters at speeds that violated several laws of physics. Marcus watched the scanner. The hunters tried to follow, but Kira's maneuver had bought them precious seconds. By the time the enemy ships recalculated and jumped, the drift runner had too much of a lead. They were clear. Marcus let out a breath that turned into a laugh, slightly hysterical. That was insane. That was necessary, Kira corrected. She slumped in the co-pilot seat, exhausted. And effective. You are absolutely terrifying, you know that? I have been told this before. I bet you have. Marcus checked their position. They were off course now, burning fuel they didn't have, racing toward empty space with no clear destination. We need to get to Havenport. You need medical attention and I need to not die. Sound good? Acceptable. Just acceptable? I think my flying deserves at least a good. Kira smiled, and for a moment Marcus saw past the warrior, past the legend, to the person underneath. Someone tired, someone hurt, someone who had been fighting alone for too long. Your flying is terrible, she said. But your luck is excellent. Yeah, well, lucky is better than dead. They made it to Havenport 12 hours later, running on fumes and prayers. The station was small, barely more than a trading post with delusions of grandeur, but it was protected. Ancient treaties, Kira had explained, from when the galaxy was young and wars were fought with honor. Marcus didn't know about honor, but he knew safety when he saw it. The station's docking controller barely blinked at their battered ship. Apparently bullet-riddled cargo haulers were a regular sight at Havenport. They were assigned a bay, and Marcus brought the drift runner in on the gentlest landing he could manage. The engines died with a wheeze that suggested they might never start again. We made it, Marcus said, slightly shocked. We did. Kira stood, moving easier now, though she still favored her injured side. You are either the luckiest human I have ever met, or the most skilled. Definitely lucky. Skill would require planning, and I stopped planning somewhere around the sewer. They disembarked together. The station's gravity felt strange after hours in space. Marcus's legs wobbled slightly. Kira walked like she owned the place, despite looking like she had been through a war, which technically she had. The medical bay was small but clean. A tired-looking doctor took one look at Kira, muttered something about danger pay, and got to work. Marcus waited outside, counting the credits he had left. Not enough. Not nearly enough. 2 hours later, Kira emerged, properly bandaged and looking almost healthy. The doctor had given her something for the pain, and the golden fire in her eyes had dimmed to a warm glow. How much do I owe you? Marcus asked the doctor. Already paid, the doctor said, nodding at Kira. She had a credit chip implanted in her arm. Military grade. Apparently being the most wanted person in the galaxy pays well. Marcus looked at Kira. You had money this whole time. I did not wish to presume. You are unbelievable. They found a quiet corner in the station's cantina, a place that served drinks which probably violated health codes but tasted decent. Marcus ordered something that claimed to be whiskey. Kira ordered water, which the bartender looked personally offended by. So what now? Marcus asked. You still planning to get to the council? I must. The Vorthau raids continue. More colonies will fall if someone does not act, and that someone has to be you? Who else? Kira looked at him over her water. I am First Blade. It is my duty. Your duty nearly got you killed. Duty often does. She was quiet for a moment. But you understand duty, I think. You saved me when it would have been easier to walk away. Yeah, well, I am starting to think walking away might have been smarter. But you did not. No, I didn't. Marcus took a drink. It burned going down, which was probably a good sign. You are going to get yourself killed, you know. The council won't help you. They will just hand you over to the Vorthau. Perhaps. Perhaps not. Kira smiled. But I must try. Marcus looked at her, at this impossible woman, who had crashed into his life and turned everything upside down. He should leave, take his ship, what was left of it, and get as far away as possible, should being the operative word. I am going to regret this, he said. Regret what? Helping you? Again. Marcus finished his drink. I know a guy. Used to run with a council diplomat before he retired. If anyone can get you a meeting, it is him. Kira's eyes widened. You would do this? After everything? Apparently I am in the business of making terrible decisions now. Might as well commit. He stood, offering his hand. Come on, let us go save the galaxy or die trying. Kira took his hand, her grip strong and warm. Thank you, Marcus Webb. You are a good man. Yeah, just try not to set anything on fire on the way there. They left the cantina together, the dragon warrior and the cargo hauler, ready to face whatever came next. Marcus had a feeling his quiet life was gone forever. But looking at Kira, at the determination in her golden eyes, at the fire that refused to die, he thought maybe, just maybe, that wasn't such a bad thing. The galaxy was a big place full of danger and wonder and impossible things. And Marcus Webb was ready to see them all.